Hey, chess fans! I'm back with some more Caro-Kann, and we're going to look at some more positions that come up and some nice attacking ideas from the black side that I failed to find. So hopefully, doing this, we'll find them next time. So the game went e4, c6, knight c3, d5, and we end up with this cool Tartakower line, which I really like this a lot. We have super easy development, and I just can't draw arrows for the life of me. I don't even know why I try. Anyway, so d4 happens, we play out this way, and now bishop to c4, which is not a common move at all. This happens in like roughly 8% of all games. The most common is bishop to d3, bishop to e2 is even more common, and then even this bishop to e3 is more common. So I just castle and castles, and now rook e8, c3, and now knight to d7. So far I've played everything normally. And the queen comes out to b3, and it's putting pressure on this pawn. And it's really actually not meaningful pressure. There's no way that white can increase the pressure on this. Of course, I was feeling somewhat uncomfortable because I haven't studied this line a lot. I've seen some ideas, but like we really don't need to be worried because these two are all that you can attack with. The knight can't come to either of these squares. Thank you, pawn on f6. Another advantage of this Tartakower line. We can just play rook to e7. And we're holding this pawn comfortably, and there's not really anything that black can do to stop this. Plays bishop to d2, and now I play b5, which I like this idea. My point is that I'm expanding on this side of the board with tempo because of the bishop. I'm relieving all of the pressure up on f7, and I think probably most importantly, I'm preventing c4. So I followed up with knight to b6, sort of eschewing the normal development of the knight to f7, and I think that this is just fine. The queen could drop back and touch f7, but we always have g6, which is not really a problem. It's a pretty common move we want to play. So rook fe1, and now bishop to e6, which I think this is probably the first mistake. This is not a major mistake. It's not a huge problem. But the point is that this queen on b3 is a little bit silly now. It does nothing, like absolutely nothing on b3. You're not actually going to play c4. I would happily take it, and you take it back to the bishop. You don't want to give this bishop up. So it's not clear what the queen is actually doing at all. If you try to play a5, if you try to play a4, I can probably just support it, or actually I can just take immediately. Yeah, so you're not threatening that. But when I play bishop to e6, I just force your queen to go to a better square. This is not a problem. It's still an equal game. It's like dead even. But I think actually just playing bishop to g4 is a lot more active square, leaving this queen on kind of this obnoxious square. I didn't like this because I thought takes, and then I got to take back, and then you get to play rook e1 with tempo, and I have to move the queen again. But what I didn't realize is that this pressure here is actually really annoying on f3, and white needs to deal with it in some way. We can play queen to c7, and the point is that I'm threatening to take this knight and ruin your kingside. And if you try to just defend the knight, well, I just take it. You take here, and I've won a clean pawn. Now, it's true that after the king moves, we drop the bishop back. We are up just a solid pawn. It's not a pawn for nothing. White still has the two bishops. They've got this nice central pawn. They've got the queenside majority, and the rook is already developed. So they have some compensation for the pawn, but it's definitely black who's for choice. And so I think this idea of choosing to put the bishop on g4 instead of e6 would have been a nice improvement. Again, bishop e6 is not so bad, but so after queen c2, I am kind of forced to make this g6 move. I don't really want to play h6. Somehow this feels weaker for me than g6. And kind of my other point is that this knight wants to probably come here, which is something that could happen with h6. We could come up with this idea, and I don't have as much control over the f5 square. So that's why I played g6, and I think g6 is probably a bit stronger, because also maybe I want to play f5 at some point, and this helps support this, and having this structure is pretty common. So I think typically g6 is the way to go here. So h5 or h4, and this is a really nice sort of attacking idea for white, and something that we should be aware of. I mean, these bishops look great. This pawn is going to come against my hook on g6. The knight's going to jump in, and things should look kind of scary. And I didn't actually handle this in the best possible way. I played queen to d7, which is totally fine. And now a5, and now I started getting kind of nervous. But I couldn't. This is actually just a mistake because it turns out we're more than solid enough to handle everything here. We can just bring the rook in, and now bishop to h6, which is the move I was expecting, is just a horrendous, actually terrible mistake. The best move for us is actually to play here, and this is instructive, is bishop to d5. Again, all of the things I was worried about with moving this bishop earlier are gone. I can take back with the rook, and I don't have to worry about this losing tempo. And the point is that, so we're kind of forcing white to exchange. Otherwise, we're going to take the knight and then take here. So exchange one pair, and if they try to bring the rook in, well, I can already just take this, and you're forced to drop back with the knight, and I have queen to e6 coming with a nice threat on the knight and this pawn, and you really just need to defend the knight. You can't exactly move the knight back out because now I capture this, I come here, and this is atrocious. This is almost certainly winning like on the spot. We're going to pick up this pawn. Your bishop's going to get kicked out. Maybe we can pick up this pawn. Horrid. So we're not worried about rook to e1. If instead black tries to continue on attacking, well, now we have a nice idea. We just take, and we take advantage of the other point of this bishop d5. We free the queen for the g5, g4 square. And the queen set's like super nice on g4. A line I was looking at was if you give this check, we come out of the way, and if the queen comes in, well, we actually just have this shake, and we're just going to be up a clean piece. But if instead the bishop drops back, well, now we have here, and we're touching this bishop. We're doing this with tempo, and you're forced to move out of the way to e3. Nowhere else is any better. And now we have this capture and takes, and then we come in with knight to d5. And we actually have a really crushing attack here. It looks like that maybe both sides are weak and that the bishops are probably still good. It's actually really hard for white to not lose almost immediately. For example, if rook to e1, which seems like a natural enough move, it's just mate in a couple moves. We just go check, forced to come here. We get knight f4. You can take it, but then this is mate. And so if you don't take it, well, this is mate. And if you try to move the rook, well, this is mate. So all kinds of problems here. If instead of like rook to e1, you try to play here, just saying I'm going to eliminate the knight, well, now we can play f5. And this is kind of a nice move because if you take this way, if you take back, well, everything that we just talked about is going to happen all over again. We get the same idea of knight to f4 and huge problems. The point is that when you come here, I can actually now just play knight takes d2, and if your king moves out of the way, say here, well, I can take this, and I'm winning the queen outright. So better is to eliminate the knight. Well, I say better, but like it really doesn't matter, because we go takes, and when the king moves, we have rook takes here. And taking advantage of the fact that this pawn is pinned and the queen is hanging here, we distracted the bishop away from defending the queen, and this would be a really fantastic way to finish the game. So coming back after this bishop h6, this knight d5, going on the offense. I played knight to d5, and my thinking was that when I go to knight d5, I'm bringing in the knight to help defend f6, because I saw that there was going to be this bishop sacrifice on g6, and I totally was way more afraid of it than I needed to be. So white still is much worse here, but goes for the capture, we take. This was a horrible idea to take this way. It doesn't ultimately end up mattering because white sacrificed here, which is what I expected, but we should definitely take this way in the event that the bishop doesn't sacrifice. This is a much more solid construction than the other way around. But after takes, and we can take this, and here's where I really screwed the pooch. I, in my head, thought I was just going to give back in exchange and put the queen here, which is exactly what I did. And this is kind of a key point that, like, you know, when I was calculating all of these sacrifices, I did it back here. And, you know, I'm looking at the game several moves later in my head, and things got a little bit foggy. And I needed to take a moment and recalculate at this point, because I played this move, which is just a horrific blunder, and I'm just losing the exchange. Or sorry, not the exchange, I'm losing the full rook there. Instead, I can just play king to h8. and what are you going to do? I mean, you've given up a pawn. Now my knight is serving the purpose that I wanted it to serve. Why I played knight d5. This f6 checks is not available. And if you try to come here to h5, well, I'll just block with the rook. And who's attacking who again? It's not entirely clear. I mean, I have ideas like this of just picking up the piece, or even this way. This knight can come to f4 at some point. I can bring this rook across, and it's definitely the one. Black is definitely the one that's doing the attacking here. Just a crazy. I bet if we look at the timestamps, I think I played this move. I might even had this damn thing pre-moved, which is just sad to not take a moment because, you know, when you're looking at the position from here, it's kind of hard to notice that this rook is going to be hanging in the end because it's defended by like everything and attacked by like nothing. And then, you know, just noticing that when I play just not here, but the king to the corner, this is totally safe. Everything is fantastic here. But yeah, just recognizing that this white attack is just not dangerous and that we can go for counterplay with bishop d5, taking on f3. You know, we're pretty well developed as well. Actually, you could argue better because this rook is still setting at home. It's not clear that this bishop's really doing much of anything. It's attacking some empty holes. And there's no good way for white to bring the queen in to try to come attack the dark squares as well. So this is a nice idea to keep in mind. This bishop d5. The bishop sets really well on d5, especially when I have this knight and pawn sort of controlling that square so that the bishop can never be kicked. This is a really nice outpost for the bishop. Anyhow, hope this game was instructive, and I'll see you guys later. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.